You know how fast we're spinning right now at the equator? I do. 1,000 miles an hour you're spinning right now, man. Did you ever think about that? You don't feel any motion, do you? No? Anybody know how fast we're spinning right at this moment at the equator?
No. How fast?
1,000 miles an hour we're spinning right at this moment, approximately. You know, we're not right at the equator, obviously, but
Wow.
yeah.
I don't even feel like I'm moving.
You don't feel a thing, right? You're not dizzy or anything. You know how fast we're traveling around the sun on an annual basis. Well, actually, on an hourly basis, we're traveling over 66,000 miles an hour around the sun. And yet,
Can't even imagine.
and the amazing thing with the sun is that that's an elliptical. It's not a circle. We don't orbit the sun in a circle, right? So in an elliptical orbit, you're speeding up and slowing down. And they always say, like, oh, you don't feel the motion on a plane because it's constant. But our orbit around the sun is not constant. So at a certain point of that orbit, you would expect to feel the change in that velocity, but we don't. You know how fast the sun is traveling while we go around the sun? Over 500,000 miles an hour, the sun is traveling through the universe. What's really cool is if you think about it, we're doing all this motion and yet you can look up in the sky and those constellations are right where they were supposed to have been for not only our lifetime, for thousands of years. And they're all traveling in different directions too. They do give us explanations for that, right? Because of light takes so many millions of years for it to travel from those great distances. But the thing that got me into this, that really got me, was there's a video on YouTube and it shows Lake Michigan. Actually, it shows the Chicago skyline. And from the shoreline of Lake Michigan, well, it's 50 miles across water, right? So it's 50 miles across water, Lake Michigan, to see Chicago. Over that distance, the spherical geometry, which is the formula for that is 8 inches per mile squared, produces 1,700 feet of expected curvature behind that horizon that you're looking. 1,700 feet. The tallest building in Chicago is the Sears Tower. It's 1,700 feet tall. Chicago might be about a couple hundred feet above sea level, but I don't even think it's that much. You can pretty much see the entire Sears Tower, but not only the entire Sears Tower, you can see all the smaller buildings that are maybe 100, 200 feet that are neighboring buildings. It should be impossible.
Should be, right? Check this out, there's a sunset in Cape May, bro.
Right?
You're supposed to be able to see Delaware because it's 37 miles away.
Right.
But you can see the fucking sunset. You can't see Delaware. Isn't that
Check this
cool?
out. Wait, let me ask you a question. Have you ever gone swimming and not been able to see the other end of a pool? There's water in our atmosphere. Just walk away. You proved it all to me. Thanks, bro. You got it. Condemnation before investigation is the highest form of ignorance. All right, I'm chilling now. You know, guys know how fast we're spinning? I do.
I think I do too.
Tell me.
I don't know.
1,000 miles an hour right at the equator. Crazy, right? You don't feel a thing though, not a thing. Yeah. You guys want to take a little test? You know how fast you're spinning right now? I do. 1,000 miles an hour you're spinning. Have a great day. Oh, cool. Well, hey, check it out on YouTube. There's a lot of disinformation videos, but it's very interesting. There's a lot of questions things that we've been told that we just accept.
Right.
And a lot of people are starting to question the things that they've been told.
Well, that's a good thing.
Yeah, I think so. Thanks.
All right, have a good day.
You too. I bet you I know more about the ball earth than you do. You guys know how fast you're spinning right now at the equator? 1,000 miles an hour we're spinning right now, you guys. You feel it, right? 1,000 miles an hour. Everybody feel that spin, right? 1,000 miles an hour we're spinning at the equator. I know, it is funny. Well, that's true, I agree. So maybe we're spinning 700 miles an hour. That's still kind of quick. How you guys doing? 1,000 miles an hour we're spinning presently, right at the equator. And you don't feel any of that spin, do you? It's kind of a good speed that we're going, I would say. We can see Chicago from across Lake Michigan. It's 50 miles. You would have 1,700 feet of expected curvature. The highest building in Chicago is the Sears Tower at 1,700 feet. Yet not only can you see the Sears Tower, you can see everything else. Yeah? The Willis, yes, the Willis. Sears, yeah, yeah, I guess it used to be the Sears Tower. It's the Willis now. Thank you. Are you debunking me right now? Excuse me? Oh, you. That's cool. Yeah. Just the evidence, maybe, though, right? Perfect. I like to hear that. Have you looked into it at all? Condemnation. Oh, it's so important, man. I'm 46. Changed my life. Changed my life in every single way, including my health. Condemnation before investigation is the highest form of ignorance. You guys know how fast you're spinning right now at the equator? I do. They say we're spinning. Well, actually, I know how fast they told us we're spinning, right? We're supposedly spinning 1,000 freaking miles an hour. Yeah, right now at the equator, the sun. That's how fast the Earth spins. And you want to know how fast we circle the sun? 66,600 freaking miles an hour. We're traveling around the sun on an hour and per hour. 66,000 miles we're moving right now. But that's not the end of the motion. The sun is also traveling 500,000 miles an hour, or at least they told us that. So that's a lot of freaking motion, right? And yet you look up those stars all your life, and those constellations are right where they always have been. While those are also moving at over 500,000 miles an hour also. There's a great video on YouTube. I don't want to take up your whole day, but it's called, if you go on YouTube and you search Flat Earth.
Isn't it called the like the map, right? Is this all classified?
No, man, this is just, well, you know what, there's a lot of lies out there. Go ahead, I'm sorry.
No, that's okay. Have you seen the video? I forget the name of it, but like basically how they show us the world map and how like none of the sizes of this country.
Yeah, I've seen that. Yeah, and that they sometimes they're different.
Is it
dude.
like, do you think that video is accurate?
Well, I've seen enough. I've seen enough things to cause me to question everything I used to believe. I mean, every single thing. I don't even believe any of our old history anymore. I mean, I don't know what to believe. I'm upside down. But I can tell you this: there's a video. If you want to get dip your toes into it, you look up Lake Michigan, Chicago skyline, flat Earth on YouTube. Okay. Lake Michigan, Chicago skyline, flat Earth. You look that up, and on it, you'll see. Somebody took video, or a lot of people have done it, where you can see 50 miles across Lake Michigan. And over those 50 miles, you can see the Chicago skyline in the distance, 50 miles away. On a using spherical geometry, you should have 1,700 feet of expected curvature beyond the horizon that you see, which is a few miles off. 1,700 feet, the Earth dips down, okay? That's for ball Earth, 25,000 miles in circumference. Well, the tallest tower in Chicago is the Willis Tower, Sears Tower it used to be. It's 1,700 feet tall. The neighboring buildings are maybe 100, 200 feet tall. Not only do you see not only can you see almost the entire Sears Tower, you can also see the neighboring buildings that are only a couple hundred feet tall. But they should all be hidden by the freaking curve, right? But they're right there. The guy on TV, which television also known as television programming, so I gave up television about 1.5 years ago when I found this crap out. Good for you. It took me a long time to get deprogrammed, and they got me good when I was young. So the guy on the TV tells you on the segment, he's like, what you are seeing is a mirage. So he tells you you're seeing a freaking mirage, right? The only problem is some dude named Rob Skiba, who doesn't believe the Earth is a ball anymore either. He rented a boat, and he got in the boat, and he videotaped on a day when you could see Chicago from the shoreline, and he videotaped it the whole way across until he got to see Chicago, where he knew it was freaking Chicago, not a mirage. So, is it a mirage? And if it isn't a mirage, where's the curvature, right? And there's tons more, man. There's so much there. I won't hold you up, but yeah, look it up. It's really cool. Kyrie Irving. I don't know if you heard about it, but he was the guy. Kyrie. I don't know if you know who he is.
Yeah, I know Kyrie.
He's the guy. Him and B.O.B.
No, he really thinks about his flag.
Bro, yeah, 100%.
He was joking about it, but like he's serious though.
Yeah. I wish he would sell it a little bit better though. Sometimes he's like.
You don't mind about like videotaping, bro?
Bro, no, not at all. No.
We can keep talking about everything.
Yeah, no, that's cool. I'll give you my thing in the meantime, I have like a little my YouTube channel, and I have a few of these. But you know, then you can always because there's so much disinformation. I'm telling you, YouTube is censoring freaking people. Oh yeah, absolutely. There's tons of information out there, but you have
You
to.
said what Kyrie think?
Kyrie Irving, you know, was the one who introduced me to Flat Earth about a year and a half ago. Him and B.O.B. were in the news, and I was like, what kind of freaking idiot? Like, I literally thought he was a moron. I laughed at him. I was like really closed-minded at the time, and I didn't really know that I was closed-minded. So that's why I come out here, and I really don't mind when people laugh at me, because I was one of those people, you know, just a year and a half ago. Yeah, I know, these dogs are crazy. So anyhow, yeah, he opened up my mind, and I looked into it, and you know, eventually I came upon that. There's other land masses, like you can see mountains that you shouldn't be able to see from over 150 miles away, and that formula is like an exponential formula.
So you're saying if it was curved, then we wouldn't be able to see it. But
correct. Yeah, 100%.
But because that it's flat, that's why we see it when we really shouldn't see it.
100%. And then they tell you it's a mirage, and yet it can't be a mirage if the guy gets in a boat and videotapes that mirage until he freaking sees. Yeah, he doesn't like cut it. He doesn't cut it. Yeah, when NASA goes up we know how NASA goes up, and you know, oh, they proved that we're in space, right? Well, guess what? They put the cameras attached. The cameras are attached. The video cameras on the space shuttle are attached to the booster rockets, not to the main not to the space shuttle. So that way, right before it enters space, it jettisons those things, and you don't get to no one's ever seen the transition from, quote, our atmosphere into space. It's never been done. Why would they get rid of the money shot? That's the money shot when you enter space, right? I don't care once you got there. I want to see it as it happens. But you're not going to get to see that. I'm a nut job. I'm sorry, man. All right, guys, have a good night.
Enjoy your day.
Thanks. Yeah. So,
what's your theory?
Okay. So, you know, I've learned a lot about the ball earth that I just took for granted. And so I would say I know more about the ball earth model than probably most people walking around here today. According to the ball earth model, we're right now, do you guys know how fast we're spinning at the equator? You might. You're in school. Boom! You got it. You know how fast we're orbiting the sun, approximately? Okay, 66,000 miles an hour. That's getting up there. Yeah. And then the sun is also traveling at the same time about 500,000 miles an hour. So that's a lot of motion going on. I mean, we're talking 500,000 miles an hour we're traveling this moment.
Yeah.
Okay? And I understand that they say, oh, hey, on a limitless scale, blah, 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 blah.
Yeah.
And we're traveling through supposedly a vacuum. Yeah. What got me really was
there's
a video that a guy produced. Let me just fit.
No, I just got one question.
Yeah.
If there's a fly in my car is going 70 miles an hour.
Yep.
How come the fly isn't slowed down?
Right, well, because you're because you're in an enclosed you're in an enclosed system.
What?
Right, you're in it. Right. So can you tell me where's the
That's why we're spending 11,000 miles.
Wait, can I ask, sir, in your car, you have a window, you have windows and metal. Well, you know what? Now you're walking away. Wait, because I just want to get to my point. Because, you know, there's an explanation for that. You have windows in your car. Are you aware of any hard surface between outer space, and our planet? There's nothing hard. Anyway, long story short, if you go to Lake Michigan, or there are tons of people have done this, on the shore of Lake Michigan, they videotaped from 50 miles across, you can see the skyline of Chicago. Yeah. Okay. According to spherical geometry, the formula that's going to give you the curvature for that distance is 8 inches per mile squared. Yeah. That's going to give you 1,700 feet of expected curvature. Okay, where behind your horizon, the Earth will dip by 1,700 feet. The problem comes is that the Willis Tower is the tallest building in Chicago. It is 1,700 feet tall. Chicago might be a couple hundred feet. It's not even a couple hundred feet over sea level. Okay, above sea level. So the problem is not only can you see the Sears Tower, but you can see the surrounding buildings that are 100 and 200 feet tall. That should be impossible on a ball Earth. Now, what is explained to us or told to us by the guy who was on the news, that this made the news, and the newscaster tells you what you are seeing is a mirage. So they tell you on television what to think. Yeah. The problem with that is that a guy got in a boat and he videotaped on a good day when you could see Chicago from the shoreline from 50 miles away. He got his video camera. I'm sorry, and I'm almost done. Gets out his video camera and videotapes the Chicago skyline while he travels across, and the entire time he keeps the skyline in focus.
Yeah.
So when he gets there, it's the city. So at what point did that mirage turn into the real thing? Right?
Yeah.
So that should be impossible. There's plenty of other land
Why
masses.
would anyone say that it's not flat though if it was?
Yeah. All right.
What's the point of
It changed my life.
Would it even be a conspiracy?
I'm 40. I'm 46 years old. I lived my life as a hardcore atheist. I believed in the Big Bang, evolution, and
Are you still an atheist?
heck no.
Really?
I can't be. But I mean, that used to turn me off, and I kind of don't bring that up because I mean, I used to be, like, I was a rude atheist too. I'd be like, "What? You believe in God? What's wrong with you? Do you not understand math and the Big Bang?" So the fact is that when I learned about this, I also learned that in the Bible, it literally talks about how there is a firmament. You know the Truman Show, the movie The Truman Show, and how there's a dome over us.
Yeah.
It seems that there seems to be a lot of truth in movies, and then the lies are in the news that we're told. So anyhow, I now literally believe that, you know, this was created, and that I know you're gonna run, but
I know,
that there's a dome. Yeah, I'm with you. Anyway, it's interesting, and hopefully you look into it and
I'll
maybe
research
and
it a
look.
little bit.
Yeah, it's cool. Thank you. Oh, you know what? I have a little piece of paper I can give you. I have a YouTube channel. If you want to check it out.
Oh, okay, cool. All right, thanks.
Thanks for spending the time. I appreciate it. Crazy, crazy. You guys know how fast you're spinning right now at the equator? Test? Princeton test? 1,000 miles an hour we're going. Any takers on how fast you're spinning right now? 1,000 miles an hour we're going right now at this moment. We're spinning. Yep, 1,000 miles an hour. We're spinning around the sun at 66,000 miles an hour. Not bad. Yeah, while the sun travels over 500,000 miles an hour.
Mind if I take a picture?
No, not at all. Help yourself.
Would you mind to smile?
Yeah, I'm missing a tooth too, so I look like a real nut job.
It's just for a friend.
In the meantime, just so you know, you can see the Willis Tower, which is across Lake Michigan, which is 50 miles across. Over a distance of 50 miles, you should have 1,700 feet of expected curvature. The Willis Tower is only 1,700 feet tall. Thus, you should really not even see the tippy top of the tower. Not only can you see the entire tower almost, you can see the neighboring buildings, which are only 50 and 100 feet. That should be impossible. They tell us it's a mirage, but it ain't a mirage. Look into it. There's plenty more proof than that. That's a tip of the iceberg, and it is a rabbit hole you will change your life if you look into it with an open mind. Yeah, it's funny, right? I laughed at first too. Have you heard about it? I'm going to give you the, if you have 2 seconds, I'll give you the proof that I just gave him that kind of got me into this. The Chicago skyline, you can see from the shore of Lake Michigan. The distance between that is 50 miles that you can see the span, and then you can see the Chicago skyline. According to spherical geometry, you should have 1,700 feet of expected curvature given the size of our planet, which is, or what they told us, is 25,000 miles in circumference approximately. So you're going to have 1,700 feet of dip behind that horizon. The problem comes is that the Willis Tower is 1,700 feet tall. Okay, the neighboring buildings are only a couple hundred feet. Not only can you see the Willis Tower, but you can see the rest of the Chicago skyline. Should be impossible. Check it out. It's very interesting. Peace.
All right, man. I appreciate it.
Yeah, I have little papers if anybody wants to look more into it. Well, no, I have a little Zoom tube thing, and there's so much disinformation on YouTube, man. They are like censoring people. It's pretty interesting. And Zoom Truth is my channel. Have a good night. Absolutely not. Get that missing tooth. That'll help make me look crazy. We're moving 1,000 miles an hour. We're spinning right now, folks. You're dizzy, right? Everybody feel that spin? Everybody feels that 1,000 mile an hour spin we're doing right now, right? You guys want to guess how fast we're spinning right at this moment at the equator? No?
We're spinning wrong.
1,000 miles an hour we're spinning right at this moment.
1,000 miles.
Yeah, on Earth. And now, even better than that, let me tell you how fast. Do you know how fast the sun is orbiting? How fast we're orbiting the sun? 66,600 miles an hour we're moving. The sun, while the sun travels at over 500,000 miles an hour. Yeah, you don't feel a thing, right? Yeah. Crazy. Crazy, crazy, crazy. But if you look into it, it starts to make sense. You know how fast you're spinning, right? 1,000 miles an hour we're spinning. Take my test. You know how fast we're spinning right now at the equator? I know more about the ball Earth than 99% of the people walking on the sidewalk, and yet I'm being laughed at by everybody. I love it. We're going 1,000 miles an hour, just as a little bonus. Yep, we're spinning 1,000 miles an hour, folks. That's what they told us. You feel it, right?
That's what's keeping me on.
Yeah, the spin is holding you to the Earth. I've never heard that one before, but I'll go with it. It's usually gravity that people tell me that I'm experiencing. I like your cute little doggy. There are two of them I see, yes. Very cool. This is the truth, ladies. You know how fast we're spinning? I do. 1,000 miles an hour at the equator we're moving right now, guys. You feel it, right? Making you dizzy? Come on, I need some customers. I'm getting lonely over here. Anybody have an idea how fast you're spinning at the equator right now? 1,000 miles an hour you're spinning right at this moment. Well, approximately. That's at the equator. Ever wonder how fast you're spinning right now? 1,000 miles an hour, sir. That's how fast we're spinning, or that's how fast we're told we're spinning. I should correct myself there. Yep, right now we're traveling over 500,000 miles an hour. You feel it, right? I feel it. 500,000 miles an hour? You feel all that. You feel all that, right? I mean, we orbit the sun in an elliptical manner. So we slow down and speed up in our orbit around the sun. You know, it's not a constant circular pattern. Strange that we don't feel that. Or maybe it isn't so strange. Maybe we're not really moving. Scary thought, right? You guys want to take my test on how fast, about how fast you're moving right now? Come on. We're moving 1,000 miles, we're spinning 1,000 miles an hour right at this moment. 1,000 miles, you feel it, right? I feel it. I'm dizzy. You know, here's my favorite one if you have 2 seconds. You can view Chicago skyline from across Lake Michigan. It's 50 miles from the shoreline. At ground level, you can see the skyline. Well, according to spherical geometry, we should have 1,700 feet of expected curvature of Earth over a distance of 50 miles. 1,700 feet would be for the Earth at 25,000 miles in circumference. The tallest building in Chicago is the Willis Tower. The Willis Tower is 1,700 feet tall. The neighboring buildings are maybe a couple hundred feet tall. You can see the entire Chicago skyline from 50 miles away. Do you understand? You following what I'm saying? Yeah. That should be hidden. The guy in the news, it was on the news because they were explaining to people why they were seeing what they were seeing, and they blamed it on a mirage. They say, what you're seeing is a mirage. The problem is, though, and I'll finish here, I'll be quick. The problem is that a dude named Rob Skiba was like, that's no mirage, I'm seeing the city. So what he did is he rented a boat and he took video on a clear day when you could see the Chicago skyline, and he videotaped it the whole way from the shoreline to the city. So is it a mirage? No. Right. It's a problem though, right? I mean, let me ask, how do you know? That's why I put on there, how do you know you live on a spinning ball? How do you know? What have you done to test it, right? Or do you just take it for granted and you accept it because, NASA tells you that there are people in space, right? I mean, they take video, right? NASA's been busted, dude, so 20 different ways, more than that, in terms of making people seriously doubt whether NASA's, telling the truth or not. So anyway, I'm done preaching. Have a good one, man. Thanks for listening. Any takers on how fast we're spinning right at this moment at the equator on planet Earth? They tell us 1,000 miles an hour is the speed that you're spinning. Yep. You guys feel it, right? I might take my Princeton Earth test. How fast are we spinning at the equator, folks? I know. 1,000 miles an hour. You guys have any idea how fast you're spinning? 1,000 miles an hour. Yep. Right this moment. You guys know how fast you're spinning right at this moment? I do. 1,000 miles an hour you're spinning at the equator. You feel it, right? You're dizzy. It's crazy. We're spinning 1,000 miles an hour right now. We can feel it, right? 1,000 miles an hour. While the sun travels 66,000 miles an hour. I know more about the ball earth than I think 99% of people walking the ball earth model. You know how fast we're spinning? 1,000 miles an hour, guys. They say we're spinning 1,000 miles an hour. You guys feel it, right? You guys feel the 1,000 miles? Do you feel us circling the sun at 66,000? Or the sun's going 500,000 miles an hour? Yeah. You feel all that motion, right? I do. Clear as day. You guys want to take my spinning ball test? You know how fast we're spinning at the equator right this moment? I do. 1,000 miles an hour they tell us we're spinning. Yep. I picked a good spot here. Any takers on how fast we're spinning right at this moment, folks? 1,000 miles an hour at the equator you're spinning. The sun's traveling, we're traveling around the sun at 66,000 miles an hour, while the sun travels at over 500,000 miles an hour. Yet you don't feel a thing, and you don't question anything. No. Guys, want to take my ball earth test? I think I know more about the ball earth than 99% of the people who are laughing as they walk past me. Do you know how fast we're spinning? No, that's okay. I'm not accusing you. You know how fast we're spinning right at this moment? At the equator, let's call it. Let's keep it simple. 1,000 miles an hour. Did you know that yet? You know how fast we're traveling around the sun?
Like 400 light years an hour.
No, 66,000. We orbit the sun at 66,000 miles, and we actually orbit it in an elliptical manner. It's not in a circle, right?
I know.
So in that elliptical manner, we are actually speeding up and slowing. There's a speed up and slow. We're speeding up and slowing down.
Slingshots us around.
So the problem is though you don't feel any of that acceleration or deacceleration, do you? Huh, that's strange. Do you know how fast the sun is traveling? It's going 500,000 miles an hour. What got me wrapped up so that I ended up not replacing my tooth, looking like a crazy person, and standing out on the side of Princeton sidewalk with a crazy sign, was a video where a person is on Lake Michigan, the shore of Lake Michigan, right around ground level. And they have video, you can videotape, you can see 50 miles across Lake Michigan, you can see the skyline of Chicago, and people see it all the time. Now the problem comes with, according to spherical geometry, which is 8 inches per mile squared, which describes an Earth the size of our...
So are you saying parts of the Earth are flat?
No, I'm telling you that we don't live on a... I don't believe we live on a ball Earth. I believe that the Earth is flat. I know, listen, when you first hear this, it's
space and time
preposterous.
has warped it into a sphere.
Well, let me ask you, do you believe in the Big Bang and evolution, right?
So far.
Okay, so did I. I'm 47 years old. Up until a year and a half ago, if someone told me they believed in creation, according to the Bible, I
don't believe in that.
Right, and neither did I. And I will tell you, I would get in your face and be like, "You are uneducated." Now, I had a guy who I watched on television, and this was after I kind of looked into the flat Earth and became more believing in it.
Yes.
And he asked a question, and I'll ask you this question: do you think a book can make itself? Do you think a book can come from nothing? The paper can come from nothing. The ink can come from nothing. The writing can come from nothing.
Everything comes from something.
Well, no, I'm at my.
What's the very last line in the
So the last line is our DNA is also known as the book of life, because our DNA has coding in it that gives instructions. It is literally a book.
I believe that. I watch Ancient Aliens all the time.
Yes.
Whatever his name is, George Song.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So, and by the way, like I'm kind of like I ended up coming to the Bible because in the Bible and a lot of other ancient cultures also talk about a flat Earth. They talk about a firmament.
Yeah. We only got like 1 more minute.
Oh yeah, no problem. No, hey, I appreciate you chatting with me.
No, tell me 1 more minute's worth of good stuff.
Here, I'll tell you. I'll give you one thing, and I'll tell you. If you Eric Dubay, The History of Flat Earth, would be the video to watch first. Yeah, and because he's the one who really. I'm sorry. Oh yeah, I'm sorry. I didn't. You know what? I thought you guys were kind of together. But anyway, for a laugh, maybe. You know what I mean?
No, well, you know what? To each is their own, and the joke's always
She's
on
not
the
as
people
much
later.
into science as I am.
Yeah, I'll tell you what. I just did a liver cleanse that I learned about, and I released like 15. They're stones. Now this is stuff that before I didn't know. They take 800,000 gallbladders out of people worldwide every year. 800,000 for a procedure, which is generally because you have liver and gallstones. That's usually the reason why they take out the liver. My mind, I used to think, I'm slowly opening my mind to all these things where, doctors this, you have to, science. It's always science tells you what to do. I started thinking on my own. It really changed my life.
I think I'm open to anything anybody has to say.
Cool. Yeah, well, congratulations, because I didn't used to be that way, and it's a terrible way to live, so good for you. Super. Thank you so much. It was worth it then. Made my day worth it. Thank you. We're spinning 1,000 miles an hour, folks, right now. You feel it, right? Oh, yes, sir.
Can I get a new paper? It flew out.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
The other one flew out of my pocket.
Yep. That History of the Flat Earth with Eric Dubay, I list on it. That would be the thing if you want to really start. I mean, maybe you don't want to, but I think truth is better than living in maybe in whatever.
Yeah. All right. Thanks.
Thanks. Good night.
Do people respond to you pretty well, or?
Last night I was in Point Pleasant doing this, and I had like 40. It was like the bars had kind of let out. It was like 40 or 50 people, and it became like a riot, and it was crazy. And but besides that, I probably had over 4 hours. I had maybe 10 or 20 really good conversation. Real good. People who are amazed. They amaze me because this is ludicrous when you first hear it.
Oh yeah, Kyrie!
Yeah, baby, you got it.
Oh yeah!
Look into it, guys.
Oh yeah, I have. I've been debating about that.
What do you think?
I'm all for it.
You're good for you, man. Have you guys looked into it? Yeah? The one that got me was seeing Chicago skyline from 50 miles. There should be 1,700 feet of curvature over a distance of 50 miles, and that's over water. Intuitively, we know that water is flat, yet, in all the photos they show us in space, you can see, water bending, right? You shouldn't be able to see. The tallest building, the tallest tower in Chicago is the Willis Tower. It's 1,700 feet tall. So you shouldn't even be able to see the tippy top of it. Well, not only can you see the Willis Tower, but you can see the 100-foot buildings and all the surrounding buildings also. Yeah. They tell you it's a mirage. A guy got in a boat and videotaped from the shoreline, right? He gets in his boat and he starts his videotape showing Chicago skyline. Well, he videotaped it the whole way across until he saw the city. So is it a mirage? Yeah, man. Check it out, brother. It's interesting. I know it sounds crazy.
The Earth is constantly accelerating upwards, and that's like a...
No, that is the flat Earth. So that is a disinformation campaign to make people like me with one tooth who stand out on the road with, or out on the sidewalk look like nut jobs. No, that has nothing to do with flat people who believe the Earth is flat. First, I would start off with, whether or not you can actually doubt that we live on a spinning ball, because that's kind of difficult to do, given that we've grown up our entire lives with globes, right? So, like I said, I would start with, if you look up Flat Earth on YouTube, Flat Earth, Lake Michigan, Chicago skyline. And you can literally see the skyline of Chicago from 50 miles, okay? Well, according to spherical geometry, over a distance of 50 miles, we should have 1,700 feet of curvature behind the horizon, okay? The curve of the Earth should go down by 1,700 feet. The tallest building in Chicago is the Willis Tower, which is 1,700 feet approximately tall. There are also neighboring buildings which are maybe only 200 feet tall. So those buildings, not only can you see the Willis Tower, but you can see the neighboring buildings. That should be impossible on a ball Earth. The explanation the newscaster gives you is that what you are seeing is a mirage, right? So a guy, what he did is, to prove that it's not a mirage, he hopped in his boat and he was on the shoreline from 50 miles away, and he took video of Chicago skyline, and he kept the video on the whole way across. So is it a mirage if he videotaped it the whole way? You're going to tell me yes. According to the mirage that they tell you it is, it should actually be upside down too. But they don't bother. They don't bother with that in the news either. The type of mirage it was. And by the way, there's plenty more. This is like the tip of the iceberg. I wouldn't expect anybody here to kind of say, "Hey, man, I believe the Earth is flat now," just from like 1 minute of speaking with me. But in order for the Earth to be flat, I would say, how do you guys know? How do you know you live on a spinning ball? How do you know for certain you do? What things have you done in your life that have proven it? You feel it, right? You feel the spin. No, you don't, right?
Oh, I have a few questions.
Yeah.
Okay, so the government will be lying to us, right? Yeah. Since the Earth is flat, but we are told that Earth is a sphere, right? So the government is lying to us.
Yeah.
What motives would they have?
Such a great question, man. Okay, so for me, I'm 46 years old, and my entire life I believed in evolution. I believed in the Big Bang, and I went with it. In order to believe the Big Bang, you have to also accept that everything we have around here, came pretty much from nothing. Is that correct? Right? I mean, literally, it was all compressed into like a single atom, and now all of a sudden we have all this. So there's a little bit of belief to start off with, right? You have to believe that. You have no proof. You have no evidence that occurred. So anyhow, my whole life, though, I kind of just ignored that because I was taught from grade school to believe in globes and that we lived on a spinning ball, so I accepted it. When I looked into flat Earth, I actually, and this was going to scare off like 90% of the people here, but according to the Bible and also according to many ancient cultures, they believe the Earth was flat. And in the Bible, it's very clear that there is a firmament. I don't know if you guys know about the firmament listed in the Bible, but it talks about a dome that is over our heads. If you've ever seen the movie, has anybody here seen The Truman Show? The movie The Truman Show. There's literally a dome over, he's living in a giant dome. And there's a lot of truth in movies that they give us. I mean, now it starts going down rabbit holes and it gets a little crazy. But what I would do is if the Chicago skyline makes you go, hey, that makes a little bit of sense to me. It takes a lot of time and effort to kind of go through videos on YouTube. There is a lot of disinformation, a lot of people who are just trying to discredit, like you said, the Flat Earth Plain Society, where they tell you that flat earthers believe we're moving upward. No, that's not the case. I don't believe that, and neither do the majority of people I know who also have, hold the same belief as me. I can ask you this: does anybody here believe that they're not a slave? Do you believe you're free in the United States? Do you believe you're free?
I guess.
The government tells us we're free, right? That's the propaganda we're given. Well, let me ask, if you look up the definition of slavery, you will come to find that you are, by definition, a slave.
What is definition of
the definition of slavery is to work excessive free. Well, I didn't say that. I said, you know, in terms of you can't be free if you're a slave, right? So I'm just giving you my slavery definition. Okay. According to the definition of slavery, a vast majority of people in the United States are probably slaves. You can use one definition, which is to work excessively hard, but another one I believe that falls under is to work for free, to have to be forced to work for free without your consent. Well, if we don't pay our taxes here in the United States, you're going to have a problem. The tax man's going to come, and maybe the police with their little guns and their little costumes that they wear, and they're going to threaten you with bodily harm, or they're going to freaking threaten you with imprisonment. So by definition, we are slaves. What you brought up about the government, government having to lie to us, that would be a little peek into, yeah, you're being lied to. You're being propagandized. Just going to school from grades 1 through 12, which is very damaging, I believe, to the poor youth, because the way I look at it also is food, GMO food. I don't know how many people here are eating genetically modified organisms. Those things are dangerous, super dangerous. Yet in our schools, you're served GMO food for sure. I can guarantee you they're not paying extra to give you organic, non-GMO foods. So there's another lie, because in society they say that our children are the most important people in our society. I would agree with them, but I wouldn't feed any of my kids, now that I know about genetically modified organisms. There's no way in hell that I would feed them, but yet our schools do. Why? Because of money, okay? Because of money. The big companies influence these schools, and they have contracts, and it's everything. Almost everything that we have that's a problem leads back to money, I believe, in a way, except for this flat Earth idea. I really think that flat Earth, they're hiding God, they're hiding a creator, or maybe not a Christian God as I believe in, but a creator of some sort. I'll leave you with this one I learned, which was a really good analogy. How do you think that a book can write itself? The paper can be created, the ink, the writing, okay? I didn't either. I don't believe that a book can pop out of thin air. Well, our DNA is also known, and maybe some of you have heard of this, but our DNA has been called the book of life. And the reason why they call our DNA the book of life is because literally it is encoded. It is encoded to tell with instructions, our cells what to do and how to progress. So it literally is a book. So right there, you have a conflict now, because you just accepted that you don't believe a book can create itself, yet our DNA exists. So I can't explain everything, but I'm just trying to pique people's interest into thinking maybe things aren't quite as what you think they are. So, not to ruin anybody's day.
Cool.
Yeah, man.
Nice talking to you.
Cool. Listen, I have here. I'll give you one too. If anybody else wants it, this is my YouTube channel, and I will post this up on YouTube. Cool. And also the person on here, his name is Eric Dubay that I mentioned, and he did it's over an hour-and-a-half long documentary on flat Earth.
I have a question.
Yes, sir.
Okay. So you said that the Earth may be flat, right?
Right. Yeah, that's what I'm thinking.
Many planets in the universe.
Yep.
Do you mean that all the other planets are also flat?
The planets, it's a good question. One analogy that first off, I don't think I or probably anyone here could prove that they are balls, that they are spheres. We're told there are spheres. We're told the moon is a sphere. It's interesting that the moon itself, we see the same face of the moon. We never ever, we don't see it any other side of the moon than except for one side, period. That's all any man here on our planet has ever seen. So that, I don't know if you're aware of that, but that's the truth. You can, and please look it up if I would expect you to, I don't know if you guys got one. So anyway, one analogy that I like using is think of a pool table. When you play pool with the balls on the table, just because the balls are balls, do you assume that the table that you're playing on is going to be a ball? We're taught from 4, 5, 6 years old when you enter school. They show you that globe and they tell you you live on a globe and you stick to it because of gravity. Yet at 4, 5, 6 years old, I know very few kids who can do the math required to double check Einstein and his general relativity, which is only a theory. So
the theory means that it's been proven multiple times by multiple scientists.
No, I would double check that. I would double check. You're on tape too, man.
You talked about the atoms having gravity, right? like when the Earth, I mean, like any kind of atom is.
Let him believe.
Oh no, no! I think it's excellent. I would appreciate for someone to. If I'm wrong, I would love to find out. And if these guys are interested, but I mean, if you guys got somewhere to go, that's fine too. But I appreciate it.
Earth is like a bunch of atoms clustered together, right?
Yeah.
And each atom is formed spherically, like.
You know that? Have you tested that out yourself? You've proven it?
Okay.
Yep, that's where I appreciate it. But that's my point, sir. Like, that's the key. If you can get by and stop just blindly accepting, because that's all it really is. And that's why people talk about, there's an old song that I was listening to earlier before I came out, and it's, she blinded me with science, dun, 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 right? She blinded me with science. Yeah, so there you go. So that's what I'm talking about. We get blinded by science because we just have to accept some of this stuff because the math is so complex. And then you have the additional problem that not all physicists agree with general relativity. So now I got some of the smartest guys in the world who are bickering amongst themselves whether or not it's true, and I'm gonna get involved? I don't want to have anything to do with gravity. But now you get on a boat with a camera and you look across Lake Michigan. Now you're in my ballpark because I can accept what my eyes see. I can accept the simple math of what a formula tells you what the size of a ball will come out to be, and it starts to make a little bit more sense. So again, it's a lot about breaking free of your beliefs. There is a great quote that I would urge you guys to live by, and it's condemnation before investigation is the highest form of ignorance. Bro, I was the most ignorant, and I'm still poisoned with my own patterns, but I used to always think that my beliefs were like a fact, and it really left me closed-minded, really did, and it left me ignorant, which is a terrible way to live, man. Horrible. Please don't do it.
And then we have to leave.
Yeah, man, good. Thank you. I appreciate it too. Thank you so much. Thanks. You too.
You know that the curvature of the Earth was first calculated about 2,000 years ago?
Yeah, Aristophanes, are you talking about? Yeah. You know that he supposedly set two people out, right?
Yeah.
A long distance to measure the sun. Now, do you know how they figured out the exact time to coordinate when they were going to time to figure out the exact time?
No, that would be a confound, wouldn't it?
Yeah, that's a problem with that experiment. I'm glad you asked.
I mean, it's been done repeatedly, and he was still able to calculate it within a pretty great margin of error for it being 2,000 years ago. So.
Yeah, but I think even some of his assumptions were off too, to tell you the truth.
I mean, for a guy 2,000 years ago, I think he did a pretty good job. And I mean, I've been in a plane. I've seen the Earth curve as I flew over it because I've flown across the oceans. Okay. So.
Right. I would say that there are even pilots out there who say you can't see the curvature of the Earth at commercial airline. Yep. So, by the way, I don't mean to refute what you're saying. There are a lot of people. You're not alone in saying that they believe they saw the curvature of the Earth. But generally speaking, they say that in order to see the curvature of the Earth, you have to be above 70,000 miles. Commercial airplane, 70,000 feet. Commercial airlines generally fly at around 35,000 at their highest altitude. Maybe 50, I think, but generally 35. But,
so is your conjecture that the Earth is actually flat, or are you just trying to get people to think about it?
No. Well, the reason why I started going off into these other tangents is because I kind of like to lead people, flat Earth is mind-blowing in itself for someone to stand on a sidewalk and say, hey, I believe the Earth is flat. I mean, I laughed at it when I first heard it, so that's why I can empathize with every single person who walks past me and gives me a chuckle, because I did the same thing, I was doing the same thing. But if you seriously look into it with an open mind, you'll have some questions. You'll see that NASA is caught on video multiple times where the astronauts themselves in some of the videos will glitch out, but the background remains the same. There's other ones where you literally can see a harness on one of the NASA people. If you type in harness NASA ISS, you will see videos where you can literally see a harness like they do in the movies. And then there's people who have put together and shown, if you watch some of these space movies, they are very, very, what do they call it? Believable. It looks like people are floating in space in movies today. So it's not beyond the possibility for us to be tricked. And then the question would be, why the heck would they trick us? Look at those glares you're getting. I'll give you you guys, I don't know if you heard this, but what got me really, this one was a tough one, and it blew my mind when I saw it. There's a video, and it was made a couple years ago, where a guy named Joshua Nowick, he videotaped from it wasn't the shoreline, but you could do it from the shoreline of Lake Michigan and look across Lake Michigan 50 miles. Across 50 miles of Lake Michigan, you will see the skyline of Chicago. They're over a distance of 50 miles according to spherical geometry, which is 8 inches per mile squared for a ball Earth the size of 25,000 miles in circumference. You should have 1,700 feet of curvature. Be out below the horizon. It should go down by 1,700 feet, okay? And now remember, we're looking over water. So the water would have to bend. I mean, you can't have a part of water be flat and then all of a sudden have the bend continue on it.
I mean, the Earth isn't a perfect Euclidean sphere.
Well, let me continue real quick. The fact is that not only can you see the entire skyline of Chicago. The tallest building in Chicago is the Willis Tower. It's 1,700 feet tall. You can also see the neighboring buildings, which are only 100 or 200 feet tall. How can you see those buildings behind 1,700 feet of curvature? They tell you, well, the guy who did the segment, the newscaster, he goes, what you are seeing is a mirage, right? Which is fine.
I mean, that's probably...
But only problem, wait, let me finish my little story and then I'm done, I'll let you answer. Only problem with his mirage story is that a dude named Rob Skiba, who believes the Earth is flat now, he rented a boat. And what he did is on a day when you could see the Chicago skyline from one end of the shore, he got in that boat and he videotaped the skyline the entire trip until he could see Chicago with his own 2 eyes. So when did it turn from a mirage into the real city, right? Get what I'm saying there? No? It's crazy. But if you look into this stuff,
other planets spheres, or are they all flat too?
I don't know, but could you prove that they're spheres?
There are a lot of things we don't.
Right, good for you. Oh, you guys are my good customers.
I think the Earth.
Yeah, no, that's fine. Of course you do. I mean, I thought it for 46 years. Do you think I was excited to be like, hey man, I don't think I live on a freaking ball Earth anymore? Do you guys know how fast we're spinning right now at this moment? Because I think I know more about the ball Earth model than everyone here. I'll take bets too. Anybody here? You might know. He's making me nervous. Do you guys know how fast we're spinning at the equator? Approximately.
66,000 miles.
You're close. It's 1,000 miles an hour we're spinning at the equator. The Earth is spinning. We're spinning around the sun at 66,000 miles an hour, while the sun is traveling over 500,000 miles an hour. And this has been going on every single hour of your life. And yet we look up, and those stars that you see up above are also traveling at that speed also.
So if the Earth is flat, what happens if you get to the edge of it?
Okay. The Edge. All right. You got anybody here see the movie the movie with Jim Carrey? What is it called? I'm blanking out right now.
The one where he's like enclosed.
Yeah. What is that called?
The show.
I say it all the time.
Truman Show.
Truman Show. Thank you. Yeah. So the Truman Show. So in the Truman Show, he literally lives in this enclosure and he doesn't know it his entire life because they have it all made up so you can't really see the edges, right? Well, this gets like where I'm going to lose a lot of people because I was a hardcore atheist up until a year and a half ago. I believed in Big Bang and evolution, and if you believed in the Bible or God or any other creator, I thought you were a lunatic and I thought you were poorly educated. So anyway, if you look into the Bible, it clearly states, and by the way, many other ancient cultures and their religious artifacts that they use, also they mention a firmament. In the Bible specifically, it calls it a firmament, which is a hard structure. Now you would say, well, why? Well, couldn't you still see the edge? Well, who are we to determine how far across that edge could be? What happens if it was 1,000,000 miles across? I don't know how big this firmament is, right? But if it was 1,000,000 miles, and we're talking on the scale of a few 25,000 miles that we experience in our lives here, we're going to be a long ways from that dome edge, right? By the way, I'm not saying that it is. I'm just saying theoretically. Now, we all accept very readily that the sun is 93 million miles away from us, right? We accept that. But has anyone here really proven it? Do you think you've proven it, or do you believe that the sun is 93 million?
So how do we know anything? It's all a collective hunch, and you trust certain people and certain ways of thinking.
I don't trust people any longer. I don't. I trust my senses. But I appreciate that's what I'm.
Well, your senses can often fool you as well.
Oh yeah, no, but my senses. These are things like there's two kinds of evidence that I'm finding. there's a great thing that I'm living by, and I think this is a great quote for everyone to learn, and that is condemnation before investigation is the highest form of ignorance. Along with that is knowing that our beliefs are truly only beliefs. So right now, I'm totally, and so being open, I'm open to being wrong about the Earth being flat. I'm 100% open to the Earth because I never wanted to believe in it. I never, I didn't go out and say, hey man, I want to be a freakazoid and be laughed at by the majority of society. So
and yet here you are.
Right, and yet here I am, and the reason I am is because I now have come to this belief, and I can gain from it, because if someone can explain to me how, with certainty, how I can see the Chicago skyline when the tallest building is 1,700 feet, and I can see the entire skyline on a fairly regular basis, when they tell me it's a mirage. So now mirages are happening on a daily basis almost in Chicago. The reason why I say that is you can see across Lake Michigan, which is 50 miles.
Yeah.
According to spherical geometry math, which is 8 inches per mile squared, which describes an Earth 25,000 miles in circumference, you should have 1,700 feet of curvature beyond the horizon. So 1,700 feet, the Earth should dip down, okay? Now the problem is that the Willis Tower is only 1,700 feet tall. Not only can you see almost the entire tower, but you can also see the surrounding buildings, which are only 50 feet, 100 feet, that surround it and neighbor it. So it's on approximately 150 feet above sea level. So that should be impossible on a fall Earth, and especially when you consider that you're looking over water. Because I'm not looking over land where you could say maybe the terrain goes up for some of that way.
I'm gonna go fly into space and find out for sure. Have a good one.
Okay, brother. Thank you.
Yeah, like what are you suggesting? That people reconstruct the entirety of human knowledge in the course of their lifetime, each single person?
Well, I did. I no longer believe what I used to believe. I mean, it's not fun, but I'm out here, and believe me, there are some people who are okay to have this conversation, but the vast majority of people this is a joke, right? So remember my quote, condemnation before investigation is the highest form of ignorance. And I hate to say it, the vast majority of society are ignorant. And it's not, and I know it because I was part of the ignorant club. For 46 years of my life, I walked around just accepting what I was told, never really questioning the things that I was taught. And the worst part is you're taught them when you're 5, 6, 7 years old in school. They show you that globe and they tell you, oh yeah, you live here and someone lives down and below you and they're upside down, and well, there is no upside down, right?
Wait. I think it's so cool that like you're going against the grain, standing up for what you think, even though the majority of people don't believe in it. But why would people even want to hide that the Earth is flat?
Great question. That's a super question. And again, so if I go back to that Bible, right? For me, I'm 46 years old. It's tougher. The younger you are, I think but some young people grasp this too, and are far, far ahead of me even in their acceptance of how things could be. So all those years, I believed in evolution, and I believed firmly in Big Bang. Yet I never could prove. I couldn't prove the Big Bang even better, any different than I couldn't prove whether God exists even right now. But I accepted it, and I used that as ammunition against believing that there could be possibly a creator.
That's a you problem, though.
Well, that's
not a problem with humanity at large. You're forecasting your experience onto everyone else.
No, but the thing is that if you're the government and you don't have a God above you, then you are the most important person in society's life, because you are a control mechanism. Whereas if you have a God in your life and you believe in God and a creator, now all of a sudden, does the government really hold that position above you so much, or do you live according to what your God that you believe has to us? I'm going to lose so many people on this, but that's what I've come to believe and why I believe it's important.
Making people believe that the Earth is round helps the government keep their power over the people, over their thoughts.
Yeah, well, this is why I will ask people, and I've asked people numerous times, do you think you're free here in the United States? Do you think you're a free person, or do you think you're a slave is even better? Are we slaves here in the United States? By definition. Do you know what the definition of slavery is? Okay.
Explain to us the definition.
Okay, one of the definitions of slavery is to work excessively hard, and excuse me?
Oh, sorry. No, I think it's great.
No, that's fine. It's to work excessively hard, but there's another one where it says have to work for free over a period of time without your consent. Well, I would look for anybody who's of working age here to try to go work and not pay any taxes. Okay? Well, let's say taxes are 20% of your income.
That's not slavery. That's the social
Hold on.
contract.
20% of your income on an annual basis would account to 2.5 months, almost 3 months, probably closer to 3 months of you working for free.
Taxes exist, therefore the earth is flat.
But no, what I'm trying to do is to get you to understand that when we celebrate the 4th of July, which we just celebrated, the government's telling you, hey man, you live in the greatest planet, you live in the greatest country in the world, you're free, da-da-da-da-da. No, you're not free. I dare anybody here to not pay taxes. What?
But other countries are on the earth.
Right, so I'm not saying that they're not slaves there too. I'm sorry. Oh, why would the other countries be in it? Why would they?
Well, no, why?
Where's your research?
Oh, you know what? I would start with here. I have a little paper if anybody wants it. There's a great video.
Saying this, you must carry your research with you because nobody else will.
There's if anybody wants it, there's a great video by Eric Dubay, and I'm not doing justice.
You're one of them.
Excuse me?
I've listened to people like you many years.
Right.
And you have no proof.
I have no proof.
No proof.
Okay. That's fine.
The proof you have has been disputed hundreds of years ago.
Okay, do you know how fast you're spinning right now at the equator, sir? Do you know how fast we're spinning right now at the equator?
It doesn't make any difference.
Doesn't matter. But I do. I know that. So you don't know about how the ball model works, and you're going to tell me that I'm wrong. That's good. Okay.
You know what if the information?
Excuse me?
What if like the information that is fed to us, how like that could be fake? What about the information that?
Oh yeah.
How fast we're spinning around the equator? What if that's also?
That could be. Yeah. I mean, I could like even that could be like you have to kind of question everything. But I have a great one too. I was recently at the beach, right? So they always tell you ships go over the horizon, right? They go over the horizon. Excuse me, sir. Do you know how, everybody with me on how ships go over the horizon? Have you heard that saying before? Okay, it's about 3 miles to the horizon. So anyhow, well, no, it's about 3.5 miles over water horizon. So anyhow, the thing is that if you go to the beach and you bring binoculars with you, when a ship goes technically, quote, over the horizon, it disappears and it's gone from sight, all you have to do is lift up those binoculars, zoom in on where that ship was, and guess what you'll see? You're going to see that ship again that supposedly freaking went over the horizon.
Just like dip.
That's because
but
the horizon is an artifact of the human eye. It's not an artifact of existing.
Well, no, actually, the horizon is partially due to perspective. I've looked into extensively. Our perspective causes us, like, if you were to get down on the ground and have your eyeball right at ground level and watch someone walk away, they're going to disappear from the feet up. So as they get further and further away in distance, you're going to see them. Pretty soon, you're not going to see their waistline. You're only going to see the top of their body, and this is due to the way our eyes work. So our eyes can trick us too. So there's many different ways that you know when you look into this to that you're going to learn things that you previously had assumed. Oh, this is why such and such happens. All
right. So I'm a neuroscience student.
Yep.
I have never physically seen a live neuron under the microscope.
Yeah.
Do you want to tell me that I have to go reconstruct, I have to go do Ramon Cajal's experiments all over, I have to do all the staining, go reconstruct the entire neuron model of
I can tell you, I can only tell you, I'm not
by myself.
No, I'm not an expert in neuron structure whatsoever, but I can tell you one interesting video that can kind of go with that. There is Neil deGrasse Tyson is big on proving how the Earth is a ball and not a flat. So anyhow, in it, there is one video where he is shown saying that with a conversation with other scientists, and they say that they have looked at, I guess, atoms down to the small structure, and what they get it down to such a small structure that they find that atoms are composed of nothing, zero. And so that blew everybody's mind.
It's a square.
Yes.
Yes.
Atoms have quarks in them.
Right.
Atoms have quarks.
I don't. You know what? I appreciate that you're knowledgeable in that, and it's well out of my league. So I don't want to delve any further.
I mean, I'm just telling you that atoms are an empty space.
That's fine.
If you're like,
okay, that's fine. I don't know one way or the other.
If you're going to tell people that, like,
I'm just telling you.
I mean, if you're going to argue against the doctrine, you should understand.
I was parroting what Neil deGrasse Tyson said, who a lot of people like to. Right, but that was just to go along. But anyhow, I will ask you guys. This question is a good one. Why? The last time? Anybody know the last time we traveled to the moon? Supposedly.
60s.
Right. It was in 7. The last time was in the 70s. I think 72 or whatever. 67. So it's been over 50 years, or about 50 years, since we traveled to the moon. Do you know that Don Pettit, who is an astronaut, who is an astronaut, is quoted as saying, with NASA, he's quoted as saying, we can no longer go to the moon because we lost the technology to go to the moon. That is literally what Don Pettit has said. We have lost the technology to go to the moon, and it is too difficult to reproduce that technology. Does that sound rational to you, or logical?
I mean, it's expensive. Technology is expensive.
He doesn't say that. He says
we have
that
this
we have
concept
lost
in the
the
real world
technology.
called money.
Okay. We had the amount of computing technology the amount of computing technology that was on the moon land, or that was on the first space shuttle or whatever that took them to the moon, the rockets, the moon lander, the lunar lander, is less. There was less computing power than on one of our cell phones.
That's
today.
true, and that's pretty phenomenal.
Yeah, there's so many anomalies with the moon landing, folks. All you got to do is look into it with an open mind. Condemnation before investigation. Listen, check out Eric Dubay's video, anybody who wants it, because I don't do justice to all the facts out there that are real. But yeah, I mean, it might feel stupid, because believe me, the first time I heard this stuff, man, I was laughing. I said, why would Kyrie Irving, who brought me into this, why would he want to say something so stupid? And I laughed, and it is funny. So I get everybody chuckling and having a good laugh at my expense. But I used to do the same thing. But then I looked into it, and here I am now. There is just
flat earthers believe in gravity.
Well, do you? Yeah. Do you know? Can you prove gravity? Right. Yeah.
I weigh the same.
Right. But you believe in gravity. We've been told that gravity exists.
Does gravity change when you're on the edge of the flat Earth?
Excuse me?
Does gravity change when you're on the edge of the flat Earth?
Where is the edge? I don't know where an edge is.
Tell me. If this is your flat Earth and you live here. Right? So there's more mass here. If you live here, you're going to have more gravity. If you live there, you're going to have less. Do you believe people out here weigh less?
So you know how gravity works now?
I don't.
Well, then, but you're just telling me how gravity works. See what I'm saying? My point is that you're making a lot of assumptions, and that's what I used to do. So yeah, so what I do is I leave out those things which I cannot prove. But what I can, yes, sir.
If the Earth is flat, shouldn't we fall off?
Okay. All right. Anybody here see the Truman Show with Jim Carrey, where he lives under a dome, right? He lives. It's funny.
So we're in a dome.
That currently is
a sphere.
That currently is my belief. I do believe that there potentially is a dome over our heads. Now, everyone would say, well, then where's the edge? Why don't we see the edge of the dome? A lot of people say that. Well, what if the dome was 1 million miles in distance across, right?
Oh, it's cute.
So what if the dome was 1 million miles in distance across? What would be the likelihood of me experiencing that edge, right? We put these false limitations. We create these beliefs, and then we go with them because we believe. How many of you know how fast you're spinning right now at the equator? Raise your hand if you haven't heard this. Not you. None of the people who were here before. But anybody here? See, I know more about the ball Earth model than 99% of the people who laugh at me while I explain it to them. But anyway, let me tell you, we're spinning right now 1,000 miles an hour at the equator. While we travel around the sun, I'm going to tell you this because probably nobody knows, at 66,600 miles an hour, we're traveling around the sun. We orbit the sun in an elliptical fashion, not in a circular fashion. So in that elliptical pattern, you are speeding up and slowing down, yet you don't feel that change in motion.
What made the lamp fall out of the sky in the Truman Show? Why did it come straight down?
I don't recall. I don't recall.
If I drop my phone on the ground, what makes it go straight down? Why doesn't it go sideways?
I don't know. But what is gravity? You tell me what gravity is. You know that even physicists have a hard time. I don't think.
That's why I wasn't offended when you asked me what gravity was.
Oh yeah, no, and I'm not trying to belittle anybody, but my point is when I ask people these questions, when I ask them, well, can you do the math required to prove general relativity? Do you understand that there's physicists out there who don't believe in general relativity? There's people far smarter than myself who contradict Einstein. Now, I'm not going to go argue with them. Are you? I'm not in the position to. Excuse me.
Actually, if I could have a few minutes to speak for a minute.
Yeah, absolutely.
My name is Liam O'Connor. I'm a writer for the Daily Princetonian, the student newspaper.
How are you?
Liam? Liam, yes.
Okay.
Would you mind answering a few questions for an article?
We're not alive.
Okay, yeah, absolutely.
Sure.
Yeah.
So what's your name?
I'm David Hicks, and
you're from?
Zoom Truth is my Zoom Space Truth is my website. It's no, I'm sorry. That's on YouTube, my YouTube channel, and then ZoomTruth.com. I have a website.
Okay, and where are you from?
I live in New Egypt, New Jersey.
Okay. What are you doing out here today, or what are you trying to accomplish?
Right now, I'm trying to have people understand that their beliefs can sometimes be false. That would be my greatest wish, and to investigate further what they've been told in their lives and start questioning things rather than accepting what they've been told.
Okay, and specifically with your sign here, which belief are you challenging?
We're talking, my main reason for being here is I believe that the Earth is not a spinning ball. I don't believe I live on a spinning ball any longer. I came to that conclusion about 1.5 years ago. It took me a short period of time where the evidence to me was kind of overwhelming, creating questions that I live on a ball.
Yo! Side question, how old do you believe that the universe is?
I have no clue there. I couldn't.
Do you have any ideas to possibly how old maybe the Earth is?
Actually, I shouldn't say that. I truly do believe in the Bible and in a creator and God now. So with that said, I would go with, I'm new to reading the Bible, and we're halfway through it. I used to be a hardcore atheist prior for 46 years of my life. I never thought I'd be speaking, that I'm a born-again Christian, but I am, consider myself that now, 100%.
Okay. Which denomination of Christianity are you now a part of?
Oh boy, I don't even know. I'm so new that I don't even have that. Sorry guys if I lost everybody. Thanks for listening. And if anybody wants papers, help Eric Dubay is an excellent source to read, look on.
Sure. So what exactly motivates you, I guess, to come out here? You know that you are probably going to be challenged by other people who won't believe you.
Yep.
So why do you decide to keep on coming out anyways?
Well, the reason why I come out is because I am like the majority of people who walk by and have a good solid laugh and chuckle and have a laugh at my expense as they walk past me. That used to be my thinking, and Flat Earth opened me up to the idea that it really changed my perspective on life, in that I used to walk around thinking my beliefs were a fact, and once I came to question one thing, I learned that what my beliefs were only beliefs, and that that they can change based on new evidence if I allow it. And I find there's an excellent, I live by this quote: condemnation before investigation is the highest form of ignorance. And I can tell you that I was up there in the highest level of ignorance for most of my life, 100%.
So then I assume you're maybe familiar with Descartes' dream argument, or the whole matrix idea that possibly we're not actually here, we're just in some sort of dream.
Yeah.
Do you believe in that sort of idea?
Yeah, I mean, who knows? But the thing is like, okay, so if we quote, none of this exists, have a good day, guys. Oh, do you want this paper?
Oh, I would love it. I already have one.
Oh, okay, that's cool. You can give me. All right. Thank you. So I would say that, nothing, I believe, can't even be defined. So we really don't even know what nothing is. And to say that we're in a computer simulation, however you want to call that, what this reality is, it doesn't change the fact that, I experienced this pole.
He's speaking the truth right now.
Thanks, brother.
You're right.
Wait,
it's flat.
All the other planets flat too?
Yes.
I don't know. I've never
Earth is flat.
First, but now I'm starting to
when you're trying to leave, there's nothing stopping you from going to the moon, right?
I've never been there. So,
you know what I'm saying, though.
Yeah.
Like,
let me finish up with him, but I'll answer any questions you guys have. Seriously, I appreciate it. So I'm being mocked right now, and I'm not an idiot, and I understand that, but that's life. And I almost would have been that rude. I used to be that rude to people who told me that they believed in God. That was my level of knowing that people who believe in God are wrong. How crazy is that?
So why did you choose Princeton as your place to come out and bring your message?
I just don't want to. I live out in New Egypt, and if I were to stand out on the side of the road on the sidewalk in New Egypt, I would probably have about one visitor every couple hours. So I'm kind of looking for some eyeballs so that I can have people. I'm not looking for the people who are laughing and making jokes. Those are just part of the, those are who I have to wade through in order to get to the people who are willing to question their beliefs and willing to investigate something that is preposterous, as the flat Earth is when you first hear it.
Okay. So I guess going back to this idea of the Bible, you said you believe the Bible, correct?
Yeah. I'm with the Bible right now, 100% with God, with the Creator.
Okay. Do you happen to read ancient Hebrew or Greek?
No, not at all.
Okay. So the Bible, you're reading it in English? Correct?
Yeah. I'm reading like a King James 1611 version or something.
Sure. So you cast this doubt on all these things that other people have said. The King James version of the Bible happens to have been translated from something earlier.
I question the Bible.
How do you know that what's in the English?
I don't. Okay. Yeah, and in fact, I'm actually reading the Gnostic. I mean, this will make a lot of Christians crazy, but I'm reading Gnostic. I'll read anything out there that has information, because a lot of these ancient cultures say the same thing. Ancient Chinese thought the Earth was flat. The Muslims. I mean, almost every culture has a firmament, shows a dome over us, and we dismiss that they had. They were just simpletons, but maybe they weren't. I don't know for sure. I have no proof or anything like that. I just go with what I can. There's a famous quote by Tesla. You'll have to look it up, but he talks about how regarding Einstein, how he gets lost in equations when we have all this reality around us where you can test physical things. And yet, here we are playing with equations to explain things that we can't explain. Do you know how to prove to Earth that the sun is 93 million miles away? I have a hard time figuring out how to prove it myself. I have to trust the people who told me when I was 5, 6, 7 years old that and they taught me.
So then, why do you choose to put your faith within the Bible? Given all this uncertainty.
Absolutely. There's a ton of uncertainty, and it kind of makes me feel like a little bit like a fraud, because I do have questions that I have to accept that I can't answer them. But what I can tell you is when I learned flat Earth, and then later came the Bible, and believe me, I didn't want to be part of like the Bible. I didn't want to be part of God. I didn't want to be a part of that whole culture and belief system. So I had to break through that. And what broke me through it is when I started reading the Bible, and I actually started finding out all the verses that talk about the deceit and the lying of men and man on this planet, and I see it everywhere now. I've experienced it in my life. I've had the government come in and find my business a ridiculous sum of money. Meanwhile, they were giving the banks billions of dollars, and here my business was almost out of business. So I could see the corruption, and it's everywhere you look if you're willing to look. So what happened was I started to resonate the message of the Bible, and then when I found out that it also spoke about the flat Earth, and it has many verses that describe that, I started to really it resonated with me. So I went with it. But I agree with you. I can't prove a thing in it, and for me, and I won't Man, I've had so many experiences which I really made me a believer. But I guess you would have to call me a believer because I can't prove it.
Are you open to the possibility that perhaps religion could be a conspiracy?
Well, I'll ask you this. Do you think a book can come from nothing?
What do you mean by that?
Do you think a book can print itself? Do you think the ink can come from nothing? Do you think that the words, the information, you don't? Okay. Have you ever heard the saying that calls the DNA the book of life?
I actually haven't heard that.
Okay. Well, it is known DNA, especially in like with I guess geneticists who understand how DNA is encoded. They call it sometimes the book of life, and the reason why they call it that is because there are literally instructions that instruct our cells as to what to do and when to do it. Literally, coding that tells how to grow. So my question would be, if you don't believe that books can create themselves from nothing, how do you explain our cells?
So then, which part of the Bible do you believe shows that the Earth is flat?
There's a number of verses. I'm not good with the verses at all, but there's a part where it's said that God created the Earth firm and immovable. I think is the terminology used. There's another part where he says that he stopped the sun and the moon, but he doesn't mention stopping the Earth. So it doesn't really make sense that you would stop the sun and the moon, which are traveling at 500,000 miles an hour. Yeah, you wouldn't stop the Earth in order, because you would want. At that point, he expects the sun and the moon to be there, stuck in the sky. So that would not make sense in a spherical on a ball Earth. And there's many more verses that I don't recall offhand.
Okay. Final thing: are you open to the possibility that perhaps some other holy book has it right? Perhaps even if it mentioned that the Earth was round.
Yeah, I'm open to anything in my life now, man. Anything at all. I'm open to being 100% wrong and being a lunatic on the side of the street who's wrong. I'm just waiting for someone to explain to me why I can see the Chicago skyline from 50 miles away across water, which I don't know about you, but I know that intuitively, I know when I fill up a bathtub or a pool, that water is flat. Water always seeks its level. They don't call, they call it a horizon, horizontal, right? When you look over your horizon, that's horizontal. They don't call it a horizon, right? There's just a lot of things that intuitively make more sense to me now than they did when I was told I lived on a spinning ball. And I accepted that for 46 years, man. If you understand, this has only been a year and a half that I believe this. And, I didn't want to be this guy standing on the side of the road. But here I am.
Thank you for your time.
Thanks, Liam.
Goodbye, ladies and gents.
Have a good one. So anyhow, that's my story, guys. I don't know if anybody... Oh, I have little papers here if anybody wants one. I would highly... because literally they do a better job. This guy, Eric Dubay, he has a video that he calls The History of the Flat Earth. And he really, really has put... It's about an hour and a half long. And it just opens up questions, that's all. And it might be a good way to... I know it sounds silly maybe first, but maybe some of what I said resonated.
For you for standing up for what you believe, no matter if...
Yeah, even if I'm wrong, right?
Exactly.
I appreciate it. Thanks for your support.
Wait, so what was the, what first started your, belief in?
I'm not sure if you heard, but literally it was when I saw, well, first it started with Kyrie Irving, a couple celebrities a year and a half ago or so were on the news talking about flat Earth. And I laughed. It sounds stupid, right? I mean, the Earth being flat doesn't make any sense, So I laughed at it. I didn't pay attention to it, but then I heard it pop up a few more times. So I figured I'd look into what they're saying, for whatever reason. And it was then when I looked into it, I ended up watching a video, the video where it shows the Chicago skyline. And according to that math, when you're looking across Lake Michigan, 50 miles, you should have 1,700 feet, okay, of curvature on that ball Earth. You follow what I'm saying? Yeah. So the tallest building in Chicago is the Willis Tower. It's only 1,700 feet tall. Well, how can you see not only the Willis Tower from 50 miles away across water, but the neighboring buildings, which are only 50 and 100 feet tall? They should be hidden, right? Do you follow what I'm saying? So the guy on, if you look up on YouTube, you can watch the video. It's called if you do Lake Michigan, Chicago, Flat Earth, you'll literally see, you'll be able to see that and watch that video. And what it is a newscaster who tells you what you were seeing as a mirage. The only problem is this guy got in a boat and he took video, of the skyline, and he traveled while taking video of that skyline for 50 miles until he got to the other side. So was it a mirage or not?
Well, if the Earth is flat, then why haven't they found the end yet? And how come they didn't no one falls off the Earth or anything like that?
Okay.
There hasn't been any of those cases, and
right. There's a thing called I would here. Let me give you this paper because Eric Dubay is the person to watch, and he really explains a lot in the history of the flat Earth. But I can leave you with this to answer your question. There is a treaty that has been around since I think 1959. It's the Antarctic Treaty, and in it they have literally made it kind of off limits the South Pole. I believe it's the South Pole where it's off limits for us to go and visit and explore freely. We're not allowed to do it. You're not allowed to do it. This has been accepted by almost all the nations, the major countries that are out there. So, why do they have this zone where nobody even goes in the first place? I'm not interested in traveling to the Antarctic. I highly doubt you are. And yet now it's off limits to us, and it's accepted by treaty amongst all these other nations, and it's one of the only treaties that has ever lasted that long.
Yeah, but if you're saying North Pole and South Pole, yeah, they don't let you go over there and visit. How come you can't go sideways? You can't go north or south, but you can go east and west, and no one falls off that way.
Oh, right. Well, the thing is that what you're kind of doing is if let's say the Earth is flat, how do we know where the edge is? Could the Earth be flat and be 1 million miles in terms of across? So who's to say that it couldn't be, right? Maybe it could be 10 million miles across. Do you think I would be finding the edge if it was 10 million miles across on a flat Earth?
Yeah, but they have proof. They have they have satellites and all of that, and they have pictures of the Earth.
Yeah.
And it's round.
Have you 18,000 miles around?
Have you ever seen a satellite up in space yourself?
Well, yeah, I have before.
Really? You've seen it in space, an actual space, or you've seen photos?
I've seen photos.
Right. You've seen photos. So you trust that those are real photos, right? I mean, have you verified that those are real?
They're real. I mean, like, what? Why would they be fake?
I don't know.
They have photos.
There is a reason.
How come, like, you can see the sun and it's round and all the other planets are round and Earth is flat?
I agree.
That doesn't make sense.
Well, I don't know, do you believe in God or no?
Yeah, I do.
You do? Okay. That's great. I'm so happy that because we have a commonality now. I didn't believe in God. For the first 46 years of my life, I was a hardcore atheist, and I thought people who believed in God were generally speaking, uneducated. So with that said, do you know that in the Bible it mentions that the earth is firm and immovable? Do you know that in the Bible?
Yeah.
Well, excuse me?
But if you say that the earth is round and that NASA is pretty much like lying to us, kind of, then why would they do that? Like, what's the reason?
Okay.
There isn't really a reason.
Oh, sure there is. Because the vast majority of people today don't believe in God. They were like me, right? I think most people do not, or at least in the United States for sure, we don't believe. In general, most people and if they do, they don't have a very strong belief in God, I don't think either. How many people have really read their Bibles? I don't think as many as we suspect. But anyhow, why would they be doing it? Well, if you don't believe in a creator, and it's very hard to do, I don't know if you can believe in to believe in the Big Bang and to say that you're reading your Bible and you trust in God's word, they conflict with each other. The Big Bang happened in a moment. God created the earth over 7 days, supposedly, right? Is what is said in the Bible. So who is supposedly there? I mean, if you're going to tell me you believe in the Bible and in God, then you're going to have a hard time reconciling the Big Bang and evolution with the Bible and the words of God.
Okay, but if you believe in the Bible and God, how do you know that God created the Bible or He wrote it? You don't believe?
Oh, right. Believe me, I have a hard time with it. What I do know is that what I've experienced in my 46 years is that I've learned that men are deceptive. So many people are liars. Have you guys any of you told a lie in your life?
Yep, obvious.
Right, yeah. Right. But yet, you know that it's a sin to lie according to God, right? That's one of the 10 Commandments. So are you living by God's word when we lie? No, we're not. So not to get all like religious crazy on you guys, but we lie. Men are liars. And there's so much truth in the Bible that when I started reading, I was like, wow, I can't believe I didn't read this sooner. I was kind of disappointed in myself. So as I read it and I learned that, do you know that in Genesis 1, it talks about a firmament over our heads. Now, where is that firmament? When NASA's going into space, are they flying through that firmament?
It's called the atmosphere.
It's called the atmosphere. I'm pretty sure that the firmament literally means a hard structure. Like the definition of a firmament is not something that's invisible and that you can fly through. In addition to that, there's plenty more. They call it the circle of the earth. God says on the circle of the earth. Now, is a circle a ball? Because in other parts of the Bible, they mention a ball in the Bible. So obviously God knew the difference between a circle and a ball. So why would He call the earth a circle? And when you think of a circle, if you draw a circle, what do? You draw a circle. When you draw a ball, how do you draw a ball? Draw a circle, but then you shade it a little and make a ball. So there's a clear difference between a circle and a ball. Yeah. And this is all in the Bible. So for people when they tell me, especially, I appreciate it. If you read your Bible, have you guys read your Bibles? 100%? No. Yeah. So there you go. But so that's the vast majority of people. And by the way, I'm not looking to convince anybody here, but I would say, I'd leave you with this quote: condemnation before investigation is the highest form of ignorance. And that's not to call anybody here ignorant, but the fact is that if you haven't looked into what this belief is in flat Earth or anything, or even into gravity, if you don't double check these facts and question your own beliefs, then you're going to have a belief system that might be faulty. And I came to believe at age 46 that I lived my life with a massively faulty belief system for 46 years of my life. And nothing would make me happier than to have save at least one younger person the pain that I experienced when I realized that I lived my life as an ignorant fool for my entire adult life. And I'm trying to change that now. So.
But you're believing, you believe the Earth is flat, right? Because you have it closer. So you change your thought on how the Earth is, like in what shape the Earth is, because of the Bible, right? Am I, correct me if I'm wrong?
No, not just because of the Bible. I mean, it was NASA videos that shows, there's NASA videos where the people, the NASA astronauts on the ISS, they glitch out, but the background stays perfect. There's NASA videos where you can see a harness on one, you can literally see a harness that the guy's hanging from. There's NASA videos where you can, there's another one where you can see bubbles in space. Bubbles, water. Did you know that? 2 times in history, 2 times NASA astronauts have almost drowned in space. Did you guys know that? It's a fact. Google it. NASA astronauts drowning in space. Twice. Do you know what NASA astronauts practice in? When they practice in an identical replica of the ISS. They practice in a giant pool that's built to hold a perfect replica of the spacecraft that they're supposedly in. And somehow, on 2 different space missions, they almost drowned. Crazy, right? So it's the amount of evidence that I bumped it. Believe me, you're not going to come to the conclusion that the Earth is flat in a day or very quickly, because you have to overcome all these beliefs. When you guys were in school at age 4, 5, 6 years old, you're looking at a globe. So those things get imprinted on our minds at an early age.
They have so much proof to prove to you that the Earth is round. They have so much proof. Like
What is your proof, though? How do you know that the Earth? No, don't worry about other.
They have photos from space.
Okay, so those are, now you're trusting the people who took the photos are genuine, right?
Yeah.
So you're trusting people who you lie yourself. You even said it, right? So now you're going to trust another man. Okay.
Why would
I got a question. So where does it end? I mean, like,
I don't know. I'll give you quick. I don't know. I don't know. There's a lot of things that I can't explain.
But if you don't know where it ends, how do you know that the Earth is flat?
Well, just because I don't know where the end is doesn't mean that the Earth. What I found is evidence that to me disproves that it's a ball. And that was that you can see Chicago skyline from 50 miles across Lake Michigan, which is all water. Across that distance, the spherical geometry should produce 1,700 feet of curvature. The tallest building in Chicago is 1,700 feet. The neighboring buildings are maybe a couple hundred feet. Not only can you see almost the entire Sears Willis Tower.
Flying saucer just going through the galaxy.
I don't even know. It could be. I'm not. If you have proof, show it to me, and then maybe I'll start selling that. What I've come to learn, though, is that condemnation before investigation is the highest form of ignorance. And I don't want to be an ignorant person anymore, and yet I can see so many people who walk by me and they laugh at me, and yet I can tell you with certainty that I know more than 99% of the people walking by laughing at me. I know more about the ball Earth model than they do. I know more because I've studied it now. And so, how can they be laughing at me when I know more about the model that they propose that they think that they're laughing at me at? That's crazy, right? How can they be laughing at me when they're ignorant? But they do it because I used to do that myself, man. So that makes it easy for me to come out here and be laughed at, because I can so accept being laughed at, because I used to be one of the people who laughed at people who had different beliefs than me, because I thought I knew better, and now I know better.
It's not more about laughing, it's more about the proof of you just coming out here and saying that the Earth is flat, point blank period. You know what I mean? If the Earth was flat, I want to know the falling part of the water. You know what I mean? Like, if we're actually sailing on a boat, it should be an end. Have you ever seen what's this movie called? The movie freaking, what is his name? Haas. He was living in a fantasy world on Netflix, and then at the end of the movie, he found out, got on the ocean.
Oh, that's the Truman Show. That's the one I use. Yeah. And he's in it. Yeah, that's what I use.
Ending point in
absolutely
our world.
Yeah. Well, the Truman Show is an analogy to what the Bible. I don't know if you're religious or if you believe in God. And I do now. I used to be an atheist, but I use the Truman Show myself because the Truman Show talks about a dome. Well, in the Bible, if you've read your Bible in Genesis 1, it clearly says there's a firmament over our heads. A firmament.
I never read that.
Right.
I know whole Genesis.
So that's good. So now you know. Maybe you would maybe that'll reinvigorate you to read the Bible, because that's not the only place.
Genesis 1.
If you go on YouTube and you type 200 flat Earth Bible verses, there's over 200 verses that you can much easier reconcile referring to a flat Earth than you can to a ball Earth.
Wait, but you said anything could be a lie. I mean,
Oh, 100%. I'm not saying that,
so
but I'm not.
How are you saying that? Like, what's in the Bible?
What I'm saying, that's a great point. I agree with you. But now, what I would say to that is that that's another piece of evidence. And so what I do is I'm taking all these pieces of evidence that I gather, and I'm trying to come up with a model that makes sense to me. Why does it work? Let me ask you guys this: does anybody here think they're not a slave? Do you believe? Oh, see, you guys are young. You're not working. But when you're working age, and you know this, you do not have a choice. You do not have a choice in paying taxes. Okay. The definition of slavery is to have to work for no money. That is one of literally. You can use the definition as also to work excessively hard and not be compensated enough. I can tell you there are many people in the United States who work who that is occurring to.
Are you getting paid to do this?
No.
You're a slave.
Well, no, I'm a slave. I'm a slave.
You are a slave to the people, my guy.
No, I'm a slave because
the United. Slave to the people, my guy. You're doing this for free, so you're a slave. You know that, right?
Well, no, because I'm doing it by choice. So
if you're coming out here and telling everyone the Earth is flat, and you're telling us all this evidence that you have and like everything you've researched, why don't you have it with you? Why can't you show us it right now?
Well, I do. I have that little paper that I gave you.
Yeah. Well, like that's someone else's. Like that's what.
Well, I'm giving you. So I mean, I can stand here for hours and tell you evidence if you want to. If you want to do it, I'm game.
Bible. Why didn't you bring your Bible with you and show us? Like.
Well, that's not my only. That's not my only. I have so many. There's so many different facets of evidence. When you see ships go over the horizon, okay? Have you heard the term when ships go over quote the horizon?
Can I say something?
Yeah.
So in the past, people have thought that the Earth is flat, but that was proven wrong in the past. So now you're coming again and saying the Earth is flat again. And you're saying that there isn't proof that it's not flat, but it was already proven a while back ago.
What I'm saying, well, no. Well, what is the proof? What is the proof that it's not flat? When you fill up a bathtub, do you see a curve? When you fill up a pool, do you see a curve? Have you ever seen water stick to a ball? Let me ask you that.
But it's different because. Well,
let me ask. Let's go one thing at a step. Let's go one step at a time. Can you make water stick to the outside of a ball, and then not only outside, can you spin that ball and have water stick to it?
Yeah, freeze the water.
But you're not.
So how do you know that water is sticking to this earth that they told you you're living on? How do you know it?
You're not taking into consideration of.
Go ahead. No, it's fine. I don't need to be so aggressive either. I apologize.
If there's an end, why doesn't the water fall off? They don't have proof of that.
Well, I don't know where. I never said there was an end. I never did.
You said that. Okay.
If the Earth is flat, then there has to be an end since it's flat.
Yeah, it's
it doesn't
flat
go forever. And if it does fall, then the water would be falling at the end of the.
All right. Imagine the way I looked at. Wait, let me give you the idea. What you need to do is you guys are asking great questions, and listen, I'm sorry that I get sometimes like agitated. Now, what I would say is imagine a kiddie pool. Okay. Imagine the Earth were a kiddie pool, and so because some people say, well, how can you go around the Earth? How can you go around the Earth on a flat Earth? Well, if the Earth was a kiddie pool and you filled it with water, and then you had little islands that each represented continents, and around those islands was a circle of water, you could now circumnavigate the Earth, and you're on a flat Earth. If the North Pole represented true north, and then south represented the edge, there was a navigator back in like the 1800s who went along for over 2 months. He rode along an ice wall, and it went for just thousands of miles. He said, I think it was something like 25,000 miles. He rode along an ice wall. Don't quote me on that number because I don't know for sure how far it was. But the fact is that the idea is that there's a giant ice wall, and you can see photos in the Arctic where you'll see these ice walls in the South Pole that are 150 feet tall. But we don't know about this stuff. We're just told we live on a ball Earth and we accept it.
How do you know? How do you know that?
Can I ask you a question?
Sure.
Why do you think the Earth is flat?
I'll give you my best proof right now. The one that's.
Tell me why you think the Earth.
Okay, you can stand on the shoreline of Lake Michigan.
Yeah.
Look across the water, 50 miles.
Yeah.
You're going to see the skyline of Chicago.
Yeah.
The Wills Tower and all the surrounding buildings, 100, 200 feet. Over a distance of 50 miles, using spherical geometry, you should have 1,700 feet of expected curvature behind that horizon that you're looking at. Well, not only can you see that, like I said, that Sears Tower almost in its entirety, you can see the neighboring buildings, which are only maybe 50, 100 feet tall. That should be impossible. The newscaster, if you go